Welcome to the Workforces Podcast. I'm Julian Alsid.
And I'm Caitlin Lemoyne, and we speak with innovators who are shaping the future of work and learning.
Together, we unpack the complex elements of workforce and career preparation and offer practical solutions that can be scaled and sustained.
This podcast is an outgrowth of our Workforces consulting practice. Through weekly discussions, we seek to share the trends and themes we see in our work and amplify impactful efforts happening in higher education, industry, and workforce development all across the country. We are grateful to Lumina Foundation for its past support during the initial development and launch of this podcast and invite future sponsors of this effort. Please check out our Workforces Podcast website to learn more. And so with that, let's dive in. As we close out the academic year and take some time to reflect on the past year of our work at Workforces, we're struck by a theme that keeps showing up across our work: the integration of academic and career preparation across learning experiences from K-12 through higher education.
That's right. Listeners may remember our recent conversation with Dan Gonzalez when his company, District C, was building project-based learning experiences that put students to work on real business problems. Since then, District C became part of College Board, an organization most of us associate with the SAT and advanced placement exams. That shift is part of a broader initiative asking what it means to prepare a student for both college and career, not two separate tracks, but as one continuous through line.
Which brings us to our guest today. Clare Bertrand, Executive Director of Partnerships and Ecosystem Strategy at College Board, leads the Chamber, Intermediary, and Philanthropic Partnerships behind the development of AP Career Kickstart, a new suite of courses co-designed with IBM, CompTIA, and Cisco that lets students earn college credit and industry-recognized credentials before graduation. Before joining College Board, Clare was a senior leader at Jobs for the Future, where she helped build one of the field's first career navigation tech products. And she also co-founded a neurodiversity intermediary focused on building more inclusive talent pipelines for higher performing companies. Clare, welcome to Workforces. We're so glad to have you with us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. And I love starting a conversation that references Dan Gonzalez and Teamship. Dan's one of my favorite people of the College Board, and I'm so thrilled for Teamship to be at the College Board and part of our portfolio. So thank you for that. I'm just very excited to get into it.
It was great to interview Dan, and the flow is obvious and will become more so as we have this conversation. So to kick us off, tell us about, in your own words, tell us about your background and the path that led you to your current role at College Board.
So as you mentioned, I was a senior leader at JFF before starting at College Board. There, I directed federal initiatives and innovation partnerships, and I launched a career technical navigation product that was used by Job Corps and really focused on young people who were overage and undercredited in high school. So what they used to call opportunity youth, but really students who were disconnected from youth and from education in the workforce. That role really gave me a 360 view of the systems and actors that inform how students get to and through school and into the workplace as young adults. And also mentioned, I did co-found a talent intermediary focused on helping companies hire and keep neurodiverse individuals, working mainly with the cybersecurity industry. And that experience really helped me understand the gap between employer and worker expectations. And that was very real and part of sort of some of the work we did there. And so when I came to College Board, I authored our career and partnership strategy to position College Board and its programs within the broader education and workforce ecosystem, to really help expand our reach to more students and ensure that we clear a path for students to thrive in whatever they choose to do after high school. So now I lead partnerships, and that really focuses on the launch of our AP Career Kickstart courses, which you all mentioned, and we'll get into a little later. And I'm in regular conversation with chambers of commerce, companies, schools, national and local intermediaries, and philanthropic partners. So really, College Board is in new rooms, we're in new conversations, and it's a really exciting time. And finally, I'll mention that my husband has been teaching in the classroom for 25 years, so that keeps me very grounded in the everyday world of teaching and learning.
College Board has long been associated with traditional college prep and AP courses. Would love to hear a little bit more about the decision to expand into career-connected learning with AP Career Kickstart as a core offering, and what's driving that thinking.
It's very true, right? College is in our name. We've been working to help students get into college for over 100 years. And to be clear, college is still the right choice for many students, but it isn't the path for all students. And given that we're a mission-driven nonprofit, we know that we can do better to reach more kids. So our CEO kind of thinks of our mission in three ways. So we want to help students feel that their work is relevant, especially their work in high school, expand our programs to reach more students, and ensure that all students are ready for the future of their choice. So really that choice being college, 4-year or 2-year, apprenticeship, straight to work. We really want them to be prepared for that. So AP Career Kickstart lives at the center of all three. Advanced Placement, which has been around now for 70 years, is a college-level course that confers college credit. And we save students about $3 billion of tuition every year. I love that stat, actually. Our new AP Career Kickstart course is built from AP's real thoughtful design. They're built with faculty and industry at the table, which is quite new for us, and are connected to in-demand occupations. Our first two courses launching this fall are AP Business with Personal Finance and AP Cybersecurity. So as I said, we want students to have more choice, and we want to give employers stronger signals of readiness. The same thing we do for universities and colleges at scale. So we're tackling both a skills gap issue, but also a validation gap. Students who have these skills sometimes can't really articulate them, and employers aren't sure what signal to trust outside of degrees and certifications. So really, College Board, we feel, is uniquely positioned to help fix this. With partners, we're already thinking of ourselves as a trusted validator of some of this career readiness, and we know about how to validate college readiness. And we believe we can provide the same signal for career employers and industry. And the goal really here is simple. At the end of the day, we want to end the artificial divide between students who are going to college and students who are going into career. Students deserve both, and they're ready for both. A lot of our students work while they're in school, and students want to figure out what's right for them, not necessarily be put on a very narrow path.
So, Claire, you've spent a lot of time meeting with chambers of commerce across the country to help design AP Career Kickstart. And what have you been hearing from them, their employer members, and how has that shaped what you're building as this kind of, this collaboration among those employers and the educators you work with?
You say chambers of commerce, and you may have seen like a big smile come across my face. I never in my career have thought I'd love chambers of commerce so much. So even though I've been working in the education to workforce ecosystem for over 20 years, I'd actually never worked with chambers, even though I'd worked with plenty of partners across a variety of states and at the national level. And I've had the pleasure to oversee an initiative with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, who is a great partner of College Board. Actually, the U.S. Chamber has endorsed both AP Business and AP Cyber. So the initiative that we launched together is Preparing Tomorrow's Workforce. And we invited chambers to help us prepare AP courses and be part of Preparing Tomorrow's Workforce Coalition. And over 70 chambers in 41 states responded to support the course and help us raise awareness across the country. So the last 18 months or so, I've been working with these chambers, listening to them, visiting them, presenting for them, and have been really impressed by how embedded in the community they are and how they translate between education and business. They know the superintendents, they know the businesses, they know the state agencies. They're really an anchor or like a backbone, as we'd call it, across states. And I've been so pleased to work with all of them and learn from them. So at these dinners with employers we've had that the U.S. Chamber have set up for College Board, and in speaking with state and metro chambers, one thing we've heard over and over again is that employers struggle to identify early talent. There's really just kind of no trusted, nationally recognized signal for durable skills. And, I think we did a survey with the U.S. Chamber, and we surveyed 500 hiring managers, right? Like 80 to 90% said that high school students aren't ready for the workforce. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But then 90% were like, we'd love for them to have a business course. We'd love for some signal of the skills they're building. So we're listening to that, and we're working with employers to really get them at the table and help us build not just the to-do courses we have, but the courses of the future for advanced placement. So we know that employers need quality and scalable solutions, and that we have these continual conversations with them about how are they working with education and higher education now, and how do we help them work better and get the early talent in the door that they know they need, but with the right signals and the right understanding of what skills and knowledge they're coming through the door with. And I'll finally say with the Preparing Tomorrow's Workforce Coalition, we have about 400 letters of support from employers, including the chambers, of these courses. And these letters essentially say the employers are saying these courses are giving students the right skills, and this is a credential we can get behind. So we've been really excited about that. And just really grateful to the Chamber of Commerce, as well as the chambers across the states and metro regions who've been helping us really better understand how to do this and react and work with local contexts, as well as scale it nationally.
So would love to dive into the design of these courses a little bit, just because, as you're saying, Claire, it sounds like they're addressing, working at this intersection of employer need and also being informed by faculty. What's been the process of, building out these courses? How do they look and feel, right? Like, how much of it is like out in the community versus in a classroom? Just would love to get a sense of how you're building them out.
So these advanced placement courses are designed differently than advanced placement, traditionally, quote unquote. And I with heavy quotes, because I think we have been thinking differently about AP for a few years now, starting with AP Seminar, which is a very different looking course in your traditional like AP history, which again, people love AP. They're great courses. They're quite rigorous and they're built with faculty. First, looking at data across the country, like where should these courses be? What is needed in high school and what do colleges think are the right skills that students need or knowledge they need when they're entering into college? So we're applying the same design to these AP career connected courses. So as I mentioned, there are a few courses right now that look a little bit different. So an AP Seminar, these have performance tasks, not just the exam. Students work in teams. They're really doing research on what they're interested in. And that got us thinking about relevancy for students and just seeing students light up, and also having real examples of students who had never taken an AP course again before and went into AP Seminar and were like, oh, I can do this. I'm an AP student. And we wanted to see more of that. So we thought of AP Career Kickstart as a place for more students to kind of enter into AP and get both industry skills and academic skills. So where we started was really first looking at occupational data, which we hadn't done before. What is in demand in the labor market? And then also, where are the gaps in what's happening in schools? So I believe 2% of high schools actually have a cybersecurity course for students to take. We've got plenty of computer science, which is excellent, but no real kind of cybersecurity courses. So what we've tried to do is actually build AP Career Kickstart Cybersecurity to both be responsive to what high schools need and also responsive to what employers need. Knowing that cybersecurity is really like a national security issue, and there's a lot of need for talent. So we built that course to really invite students to understand cybersecurity, understand it as a survey course. And we have cybersecurity and networking. There are actually 2 courses. And we've really thought about it in the context of how do students actually explore careers in the context of cyber. So I think what we're trying to do is push against the myth of like cybersecurity being people in like hoodies by themselves in a, dark corner. Actually, there are cybersecurity folks who work in healthcare, agriculture, on a submarine. It doesn't matter if you want to go to college, directly to career, or into the military. You need some cybersecurity, and it's in every single industry. So really helping students light up. Similarly, with AP Business with Personal Finance, we wanted to integrate financial literacy into business because we want students to think about how they're going to make money and then think about how they're going to save their money. And we love that kind of combination of both of those things because, frankly, we want students to have that financial literacy, but sometimes financial literacy on its own assumes a lot about a student's situation and a family situation. What we wanted to do was give students business acumen so they could sort of take the financial literacy and think about building a business and building their own sort of way of thinking about themselves as a business person. That also has case studies. So we're using the Harvard Business School model of case studies within AP Business. We have 22 employer case studies, and we're actually inviting employers like McDonald's to submit new case studies and other employer partners, which we're really excited about. And then also we have competitions we're going to be doing as part of AP Business as well. So there's some work-based learning components of it, project-based learning, And really part of this too is connecting the students who are taking AP Career Kickstart to opportunities like internships, like apprenticeship. We've got partnerships with CareerWise. So we're trying to think really differently about how we move these AP Career Kickstart courses into high schools. And we've had a number of them being piloted the last couple of years. So we have a lot of that learning, but they're launching nationally this fall in 2026.
That's really exciting. Really interesting to hear how you're thinking about these roles that, as you're saying, right, are almost like they cut across sectors. So cyber being like this exists everywhere, right? Like this gives you a window into many different industries. And then in the case of the business with personal finance, I do think that integration of how do we develop business acumen and also build out one's personal finance skills? I mean, that seems like such a natural integration and one that is, obviously incredibly needed by what you're hearing. And I think just like kind of where the world is headed. So exciting to hear your process.
It's been really interesting. When we talk to employers, I made the assumption that employers wouldn't really care about the financial literacy aspect of the course, which is really integrated and it's almost half of the course. I was like, well, they'll want that really good business survey and they'll want students to have those skills. But actually, employers have been almost as enthusiastic or more enthusiastic about the financial literacy piece and the fact that it's woven within that business aspect too. So that's been delightful to hear. And then also, if you look at some data, like the Starbucks of the world are actually integrating financial literacy training into their learning and development sequences because employees are really struggling because they didn't get that in school. So we're really excited about the opportunity.
Yep, absolutely.
As you scale this work then nationally, Claire, maybe you've answered this question. I think you kind of have in describing the design of the work, the initiative. And this is a topic that comes up for us a lot, which is how do we scale while maintaining the kind of depth? How do we both have broad reach and depth? And I know you've written about this quite thoughtfully. Obviously, it's meeting with chambers of all different sizes, I can imagine, is one way you're doing this. But how are you thinking about that tension?
Sure. I mean, I think when we think about scale, and I've been doing, work nationally and doing initiatives with funders for quite a long time. And I feel that sometimes, especially with utilizing like ed tech and that sort of thing, scale can be seen as and used as a blunt instrument, right? Like if we reach a lot of kids, that obviously means it's working. It's like, well, it's not necessarily true. And what I think scale needs is insights into local context. And by no means do I think this is I'm the only person saying this. There are some really fantastic funders, initiatives, and there's a really deep, long history of organizations doing scale right. I think we just need to talk about it in more explicit ways and make sure we are designing for scale, but first starting with the local context and make sure we're replicating quality and rigor, but really making sure that it can be utilized and customized for the local context. And I think what you brought up were chambers, and that's really helped us. Not only do we think about, okay, every single labor market is a little bit different, right? Let's say Waco, Texas is thinking about aviation. Des Moines has cybersecurity and also a bunch of financial services headquarters. Orange County has data centers coming in, right? So there's a lot of different things that these chambers are thinking about. But when we think about AP Business with Personal Finance and AP Cybersecurity, they know that those course frameworks look the same in every single high school. What the exam and credential tells those employers across the country is the same exact signal. So we are trying to think about how do we use the way we've scaled advanced placement and actually do that for employers, for universities, for both, and make sure students have all the same choices. So because College Board has teams in every single state, because College Board really kind of digs in with districts and provides services and professional development to counselors, and now we've got stakeholders at our chambers of commerce, employers, and industry associations, we really are thinking about the whole ecosystem. And that's going to help us with scale because we can hand something off and trust that the partners on the ground are going to take it and run with it and that they're going to deliver that course framework, the assessment, and it's going to be meaningful for a student who's in Des Moines, Iowa, and Waco, Texas, and Boston, Massachusetts, and employers can trust it. So we're really excited about kind of utilizing that angle and thinking about scale differently and, testing out how we can do this with our employer partners and industry partners, as well as school and higher ed.
I can imagine this next phase must be very exciting for you because I feel like it's like to see how this is implemented in practice and in different contexts and what, where maybe, I don't know, where schools need additional supports because they don't always have that connection to community or business, and where employers are more naturally inclined to become engaged with this or less so. It sounds like you're going to be at a juncture of, a ton of learning.
Totally, yes. And I think too, there's opportunities to continue to learn and have that conversation. Something else I really like to push my colleagues on, and just in College Board and then across sort of the field I've been working in, is really to move beyond the headlines, right? There's a lot of like employers just like, oh, education's not giving them the skills they need. And then you talk to the employer and they have 18 different higher education partners, right? Like they are talking to higher ed. They're building out, they're like, informing the curriculum. There's all of this work happening. And I think if we stop at the sort of the system's broken, we don't see what's already working. And there's a lot working. And I think what College Board's trying to do is add value to that. We're not trying to recreate the wheel. We're trying to make sure that these courses or assessments fit into what's working and really amplifies it and validates it. So, we're learning a lot. We're sharing with our partners. We're really excited about the launch. And yeah, we're thrilled with the partnerships we've had, and we're excited to continue to have the conversations, CAP, business with personal finance and cybersecurity, really, meet the needs of students, families, and employers in the areas they live in. So it's been very exciting.
So, Claire, you mentioned various stakeholder groups that you've engaged with over the course of the development of AP Career Kickstart. For all the guests on our show, we love to ask a question about how others can become forces, given that the name of the show is Workforces. So you can take this question in whatever direction you'd like, but what would it take for educators or employers or policymakers listening to this conversation to become forces in expanding access to career-connected learning from your perspective in building AP Career Kickstart or your years in the space?
First and foremost, if anyone wants to learn more about AP Career Kickstart, I'd invite them to go to collegeboard.org/AP Career Kickstart. You can share the link with your listeners. But also, I think just, employers and chambers just getting in the room. We know that high school faculty, college faculty, under a lot of pressure, doing a lot of great work every single day. And while they're trying their hardest to build the academic skills that are necessary for durable skills that are then career skills, they need employers, they need chambers of commerce to step in and say, hey, how can we be helpful? And I think that's really some of the reasons why College Board has invested in Teamship, and Teamship has come on board because we want to scale the opportunity for employers to work with schools. And it's been tough, right? I've talked to employers who basically are like, we want to work with our school district, but there's different MOUs for every single high school in the district that's in our region. It's a lot to handle. So how do we actually think about something like Teamship to help really smooth that connection and that partnership? And it's a low-hanging fruit, right? It's not many hours of an employer's time, and it just gets them in the door. It also gets employer staff and teams really excited because working with teenagers, honestly, is fantastic. And they get to see how sophisticated and smart and sharp and full of solutions and ideas that teens and children in high school are. So we're really excited about the fact that we have the AP Career Kickstart model. We're pairing it with the opportunity for Teamship, and Teamship can actually be used at any school, whether they have AP or not. We hope most schools have AP. And also sort of thinking about our chamber partners and how they're setting up internships, and AP students are going to be more aware of those. Same thing with companies. So there's a real opportunity for awareness, and College Board being a partner to all these stakeholders and helping folks connect the dots. So College Board traditionally is a membership organization. We're a natural convener, and we're just starting to convene new stakeholders. So generally speaking, check out, AP on collegeboard.org and learn more about Career Kickstart. In sort of your local area or region, I'd say check out your chamber or your local employers, and your Chamber of Commerce may be involved in our Preparing Tomorrow's Workforce initiative. We can leave a link for that as well. But again, there's a lot of different entry points, but I'd start with the collegeboard.org website.
And where can people follow you, Claire?
Sure. I am on LinkedIn, and some of my writing is on the All Access blog, but definitely LinkedIn is the place to follow.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's really great to hear about these things. It's great to learn about AP Career Kickstart, and definitely look forward to tracking this as it unfolds. I do think you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
I'll be really interested to see how you keep up with, as a big organization, with kind of the what's around, trying to keep up with what's around the corner, as we all
absolutely.
are.
I mean, it's quite dynamic. We're looking at more career connected courses to launch. And, there's a lot of, I think I'll use the word again, the dynamic aspect of the labor market with AI. And I didn't mention AI at all during this podcast, which is incredible. But basically, that's coming, and we want to make sure students are prepared for that. But it is something we think about. And again, this is why it's so important. The last 2 years, we've been building these new relationships and really starting to think about what are new tables we can set with as many stakeholders who are invested in early talent and making sure all kids are successful. That's really something we're thinking about and looking forward to really convening and nurturing as one of the kind of biggest national players in the United States and also globally.
No, absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today, Claire, and look forward to remaining in touch.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's conversation and appreciate you tuning in to Workforces. Thank you to our listeners and guests for their ongoing support, and a special thanks to our producer, Dustin Ramsdell. If you're interested in sponsoring the podcast or want to check out more episodes, please visit workforces.info/podcast. You can also find Workforces wherever you regularly listen to your favorite podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, and share it with your colleagues and friends. And if you're interested in learning more about Workforces Consulting, please visit workforces.info/consulting for more details about our multi-service practice.